Okay, so rice. I mean, think about this. It's fed more people, historically, than any other food, period.
It's kind of staggering when you actually stop and think about it.
Right. Or like, imagine a single grain being the bedrock of, architecture, politics, even religion in some
It
places.
sounds almost like an exaggeration, but it's really not.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing today, a real deep dive into the incredible story of rice. We've pulled together some really fascinating material.
We're going to cover a lot. The origins, obviously, the grain itself,
Yeah, the anatomy.
the cooking traditions, which are just amazing, fermentation, health stuff, and, where rice might be heading.
And for you, our listener, if you want to get up to speed quickly but like really understand it, this is the shortcut.
Totally. We've looked at everything from, ancient plant studies,
Yeah.
archaeobotany, to food history, genetics,
Wow.
to pull out the really surprising bits, those aha moments, but, without drowning you in detail.
Okay, perfect. So, mission is clear. Distill the key insights. Help you grasp what really matters about this staple grain. Let's start at the beginning. The origins.
Right. And it was, well, a pretty humble start. The story kicks off with what our sources call a simple gesture, basically people interacting with wild rice.
Wild rice, like not the stuff we eat today.
Exactly. Oryza rufipogon. This was happening in the Yangtze River Valley maybe 10,000 years ago. We've got archaeological sites, Pengtushan, Hemadu. They show evidence of this early cultivation, the first steps toward Oryza sativa, the rice we know.
And it wasn't just like, oh, let's grow this plant too. The sources really stress that rice was different compared to, say, wheat or millet back then.
Yeah, hugely different impact. Rice demanded cooperation, you needed irrigation systems, people had to work together, plant seasonally.
So it almost forced societies to organize.
You could definitely say that. It fostered early social cooperation, even agricultural rituals.
Right.
There's a quote from Dorian Fuller.
Uh-huh.
He says, rice domestication was not a singular event, but a complex process over thousands of years. And here's the key part. Humans didn't just change the plant changed human society.
Wow. That really puts it differently.
It does. The sources make it clear. Rice got woven into architecture, politics, religion, family life. That collective effort for irrigation alone, that could easily shape early community governance.
That makes sense. Now, something else that jumped out was incredible genetic diversity. Not just the rice we eat, but wild species too.
Oh, yeah. Beyond the sativa we cultivate, there are 21 known wild Oryza species,
21.
and they're crucial. Dr. Robert Zeigler, he used to head up IRRI, the International Rice Research Institute. He called them an invaluable insurance policy.
Insurance. How so?
Because these wild relatives hold genes for things like disease resistance, drought tolerance, surviving floods, stuff that's becoming incredibly important now with climate change.
Ah, okay. So preserving that wild diversity is key.
Absolutely vital. It's a massive genetic library.
And speaking of diversity, there's this fundamental split, right, between indica and japonica rice.
Yes, that divergence is a huge deal in rice history. It really shaped cuisines and cultures across Asia.
How did that play out?
Well, japonica tends to cook up stickier. Think
Oh.
East Asia, perfect for chopsticks, like sushi rice. Indica grains stay more separate, fluffy. That dominates in South and Southeast Asia, often eaten with fingers or spoons.
So that one genetic difference influenced how whole regions ate.
Massively, it created distinct culinary worlds.
And the variety doesn't stop there, right? Within those two types.
Oh, it's immense. Japan alone has over 300 japonica varieties.
Yeah.
You've got your premium koshiakari for eating, Yamada Nishiki, which is prized for sake of brewing.
Seiko rice.
Yeah. And then India has thousands of indica types, famous ones like basmati, but also unique local ones like the red Mappadai samba.
It's mind-boggling.
And the sources also mention specific wild species again, like Oryza longus staminata for drought resistance, rufipogon, the ancestor for flood and disease tolerance, Navara for potentially higher yields. It's just this incredible pool of traits.
Okay, so rice starts in Asia, but it definitely didn't stay there. It went on a bit of a world tour.
It really did. It spread along trade routes, the Silk Road,
Mm-hmm.
by sea to East Africa. Crusaders brought it to Europe. Think the Po Valley in Italy.
Right, risotto.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, more tragically, through the slave trade and colonial agriculture to the Americas. By the 1700s, rice was pretty much global.
And it wasn't just about food calories, was it? The sources link rice cultivation to, like, the rise and fall of empires.
Definitely. The political and cultural weight is undeniable. Growing rice is tied to the expansion of empires, the development of whole civilizations. Dr. Jade Dalpalm Guedes argues rice actually drove human migration.
How?
By developing cold-tolerant varieties, suddenly people could farm and settle in places that were previously too cold. A reliable food source fuels population growth, expansion.
It's like different cultures took this basic grain and just ran with it, adapting it completely.
Precisely. Francesca Bray, a historian, talks about societies reinventing rice agriculture in their own image. You see it in Japan with the samurai connection, Bali's incredibly complex Subak irrigation systems, which are social and religious too, or
Wow.
the Marina kingdoms in Madagascar. Rice wasn't just grown, it was woven into the very fabric of society.
And it made its way into the Islamic world, too, and then Europe.
Yes, the Silk Road and sea trade brought it into Persian cuisine, think cello and polo. Those dishes then influenced cooking across the Middle East, and through Moorish influence in Spain, rice got established there, eventually leading to things like paella.
So by the 1800s or so, it was like rice had always been in these places.
It really felt that way. It became thoroughly localized, almost seeming endemic.
Oh.
Carolina gold rice in the U.S., managed paella, Persian tadig, that amazing crispy bottom Dominican rice and beans, all distinct, deeply rooted, but all tracing back to that one Asian grain.
But it goes even deeper than just food and politics. There's a cultural, almost spiritual significance.
Very much so. The sources really emphasize this. Rice is tied up with prayer, family rituals, marking time, spiritual acts. Think about harvest festivals everywhere, or offering rice dumplings to honor poets.
Thanksgiving for rice.
Exactly. Dr. Gilda Cordero Fernando called these rituals humanity's oldest form of Thanksgiving. It's acknowledging its life-giving power.
And in Japan, it seems to reach a whole other level.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The emperor himself performs a planting ceremony. A sacred rice field is part of the imperial regalia. Rice even has kami status in Shinto religion. Motohisa Yamakage explains this. And the Nina Masai festival celebrates the first harvest, thanking the gods. It shows profound respect.
It's incredible how one plant could be so central to developing societies in so many different ways.
It really shaped things. The demands of rice farming, the need for cooperation, the seasonal rhythm it spurred on, social organization, governance, calendars, festivals, and ultimately, population growth and cities in Asia. Dr. Peter Bellwood said rice fundamentally reorganized how they lived.
Wow. Okay, so origins, global journey, cultural impact. It's clear. Rice is huge. Let's zoom in now. What about the actual grain itself, the anatomy?
Yeah, let's do that, because the grain, as the sources put it, is really an elegant design, a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. Looks simple, but it's quite complex.
So break it down for us. What are the main parts?
Okay, four main bits. You've got the hull, that's the tough, inedible outer coat, protection, basically.
Right.
Then inside that is the bran. That's where you find lots of fiber, minerals, antioxidants.
The healthy stuff.
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's the germ, the embryo, tiny, but packed with oils, vitamins, enzymes. It's the living heart, really.
Okay.
And finally, the bulk of it, the endosperm. That's mostly starch. It's what makes up most of white rice. Dr. Anna McClung points out, each part has a job for the plant, but also gives us different nutrients.
It's amazing how it all fits together. That bran layer sounds particularly important nutritionally.
It really is. Dr. Elizabeth Ryan talks about its antioxidant power, things like rice bran is arabinoxalan. And it's the bran that gives colored rice brown, red, black. They're pigments.
Anthocyanins and things.
Exactly. Anthocyanins in black rice, proanthocyanidins in red. They come with their own health benefits, which makes it kind of ironic that we polish it off to make white rice.
Yeah, it does seem odd. And the germ, that tiny bit.
Still vital. Even though it's small, it's the living heart, full of good oils, vitamins, minerals needed for the seed to sprout.
Got it. Now, the endosperm, the starchy part, what's key there?
Its composition dictates how the rice cooks. Dr. Nisarita Vasuli explains it's about the ratio of two starches, amylose and amylopectin.
Okay, chemistry time?
Just a bit. High amylopectin means stickier rice. High amylose means the grains stay separate and fluffy.
Ah, so that's why japonica is sticky and indica is fluffy.
Pretty much. East Asian cuisines often prefer that stickiness for chopsticks, while South Asian cuisines go for the separate grains. It connects directly back to that starch ratio.
And presumably, thousands of years of breeding reinforced those preferences.
Exactly. Dr. Toshiki Nakamura talks about that selective breeding. And Dr. Harold McGee points out the genius of it all, how the different parts work together synergistically for nutrition. It's not just isolated components.
Which leads us straight into the big debate. White rice versus brown rice.
Yep, the classic showdown. Nutritionally, brown rice wins on paper because it keeps the bran and germ.
Hmm.
So more fiber, magnesium, B vitamins, antioxidants.
What?
But white rice is softer, often more aromatic, and crucially, it stores much longer. Plus, there are taste preferences and tradition.
So why did white rice become so dominant globally?
Several reasons. Taste, definitely. Storage life was huge, especially for trade and later industrial food systems. And, as Dr. Sidney Mintz points out, historically, refined foods like white sugar and white rice sometimes became status symbols.
Interesting. What about parboiled rice? Is that a middle ground?
Kind of. Dr. Connie Weaver explains parboiling pressure steaming the rice before milling actually pushes some nutrients from the bran and germ into the endosperm.
Oh, clever.
Yeah, so parboiled white rice retains more nutrients than regular white rice, but it's still not the same as whole brown rice.
So the choice isn't just about nutrient charts.
Not at all. Our sources really stress it's a mix of culinary tradition, social factors, and just plain sensory experience, taste, texture.
Okay, we've covered white and brown, but there's this amazing spectrum of colored rice too. Red, black, purple.
Yes, and these often get tagged as superfoods now, but they have deep historical roots. Their colors tell stories of local biodiversity and culinary identity.
It's sad to think how many unique local varieties might have been lost with agricultural standardization.
It really is.
Yeah.
And Dr. Audley makes a great point. Those pigments aren't just pretty. They're often plant defense compounds that happen to be great antioxidants for us.
Let's talk black rice.
Yeah.
Forbidden rice life.
That's the one. Dr. Jimin Jun notes it's packed with anthocyanins, those antioxidants you find in blueberries. Potentially anti-cancer properties, too.
Wow. And how is it used?
All sorts of ways. Sweet desserts in China, puddings in Indonesia, sometimes just for visual contrast in Thailand. Nutritionally, it usually beats white rice on protein, iron, fiber, and has a lower glycemic index.
And red rice.
Red rice gets its color from different compounds, like tannins, linked to possible heart health and blood sugar benefits. You find varieties everywhere. Himalayan red rice, Caroline Mata rice, Thai red cargo, Camargue red rice from France, Bhutanese red rice.
Bhutanese red rice sounds special.
It is. It's culturally really significant in Bhutan.
So the colors aren't just skin deep. They signify something more.
Definitely. The pigments often correlate with greater plant resilience and retain genetic diversity crucial for adapting to environmental stress. There's a great story about a Filipino farmer, Elpidio Basilio, who dedicated himself to saving these colored varieties. His wisdom is a real contrast to modern monoculture.
It's funny how these ancient grains are now trendy superfoods.
Dr. Rachel Loudon calls it a renaissance, yeah. It's ironic, these foods that sustain people for centuries are treated like new discoveries. It creates opportunity, sure, but also challenges around commercialization and protecting their heritage.
So their value is more than just nutrients.
Way more. It's agricultural history, cultural identity, and critically, that genetic diversity we might desperately need for climate adaptation.
Okay, we've talked benefits, but there's a flip side we need to address, particularly with brown rice, the arsenic issue.
Right. This is really important. It's that paradox. Brown rice is often nutritionally richer, but it can also accumulate more arsenic, primarily in that bran layer.
Where does the arsenic come from? Is it pollution?
It can be from industrial pollution or historical pesticide use in some areas, like parts of the U.S. South Central region. But it can also be naturally present in the soil and water, just geological deposits. Dr. Brian Jackson stresses how complex food systems are regarding contaminants.
And why is rice particularly prone to picking it up?
Because it's usually grown in flooded paddies. Dr. Jianfeng Mai explains rice plants are adapted to absorb nutrients efficiently in waterlogged soil, but they unfortunately also readily absorb arsenic, which behaves similarly to silicon, something the plant needs.
And it takes up more than other cereals?
Yeah, often about 10 times more than wheat or barley grown in the same soil. And crucially, it concentrates that arsenic in the outer layers, the bran.
Which is removed for white rice.
Exactly. That's why brown rice can have higher levels. Dr. Margaret Carrigas notes levels vary a lot based on geography, geology, and human activity.
Are some places generally safer?
The sources suggest regions like the basmati areas of India, Pakistan, jasmine areas of Thailand, California, and most of Europe tend to have lower levels. Dr. Caroline Stasiewicz says choosing rice from these areas is one strategy.
What about cooking methods? Can we do anything to reduce it?
Yes, definitely. And interestingly, traditional Asian preparation methods often do this naturally. Things like washing the rice thoroughly beforehand, soaking it.
For how long?
Even overnight soaking helps. And crucially, cooking it in a lot of excess water, like 6 to 10 parts water to 1 part rice, and then draining that water off.
Like cooking pasta.
Kinda, yeah. Dr. Yamile Zavala's research confirms these methods significantly reduce arsenic levels. So rinsing, excess water cooking, soaking, sourcing carefully, these are all good strategies. Combining them is even better.
Okay, so it's complex but manageable with informed choices.
That's the takeaway. Be aware, choose wisely, prepare properly.
Right. Now let's pivot to something more purely joyful. The incredible variety of ways rice is cooked around the world. It's the same grain, but the results are totally different.
It's amazing, isn't it? Dr. Sidney Mintz said cooking choices reflect core culinary values. And with rice, you see history, technology, philosophy, social structure, all playing out in the cooking pot.
In East Asia, Japan, Korea, China, rice often feels central, but maybe in a more pure or restrained way sometimes.
That's a good way to put it. In Japan, it's about purity, precision. Chef Yoshihiro Murata talks about letting the riceness shine. They favor premium short-grain japonica like koshihikari for its texture.
And the cooking is meticulous.
Absolutely. Whether it's a traditional Kamado stove or a high-tech rice cooker, the process aims for perfection. Minimal disturbance while cooking, then a resting period called murasaki for even moisture. Even fluffing it with a shimoji paddle is done carefully. And gohan cooked rice also just means meal. That tells you everything.
What makes Japanese rice perfect?
It should have a subtle sweetness, a slight stickiness, but with distinct grains, a nice sheen.
And sushi rice is even more specific.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Chef Jiro Ono famously said sushi is the rice, shari. You season warm rice with sura rice vinegar, sugar, salt, using this cutting and salting motion. Chef Masaharu Morimoto stresses temperature and technique are key to not crushing the grains. You want that perfect sweet, tangy balance and tender, clingy grains.
Moving to Korea, bap culture seems to embrace mixed grains more.
Yeah, japgo-bap rice cooked with barley, beans, millet is very common. Doctors Kung Koo Han and Sunhui Cho explain it has nutritional and historical roots. They often use a bit more water. Traditionally, the gamasop pot created that amazing crispy bottom, nurungji.
Crispy rice.
Exactly. Modern pressure cookers are common now, but dishes like dolsa the bibimbap, served sizzling in a stone bowl, still celebrate that texture.
And in China, clay pot rice is still a big deal.
Definitely. Balzai fan. Dita Shon talks about the unique smoky flavor and textures you get from cooking rice in clay. You layer ingredients on top, letting juices drip down, and you aim for that perfect crispy crust at the bottom. Old pots are prized.
We can't talk East Asian rice without mentioning the electric rice cooker. That changed everything, didn't it?
Yeah, massively. Dr. Benny Tong points out the revolution started with Toshiba's first model in 1955. Modern ones with fuzzy logic or MICOM technology, they make perfect rice almost foolproof. Dr. Mary White says it democratized quality rice. It automated tradition, didn't erase it.
Okay, let's shift south. South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. The approach seems much more about layering flavors, aromatics.
Absolutely. The diversity is incredible. Basmati is globally famous, but India has thousands of local landrace varieties. Cooking here is often about building flavor spices, broths, ghee, sometimes milk. Rice becomes a carrier for complex tastes, almost telling a story.
And biryani is like the ultimate expression of that.
You could say that. Originating in Mughal India, it's rice artistry. Layering par-cooked rice with marinated meat or veg, saffron, herbs, spices, often cooked separately then steamed together. It's a celebration dish.
Are there strong regional rice traditions too?
Oh, tons. Red rice in Kerala, used for things like putu. Pakistani dishes like sweet zarda or savory kabuli pulao. And rice isn't just the grain, or rice flour makes bread, snacks, noodles are common. Fermented rice things too. Doctors Dhanusha Murthy and Krishnendu Ray stress its versatility and necessity. It's the nutritional backbone.
Heading into Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, fragrance seems key here.
Especially with Thai jasmine rice. Dr. Susan Dulcimer highlights that beautiful aroma. There's real reverence for it. Serving it in woven credit baskets. Just opening it is an experience.
And coconut milk gets used a lot.
Oh, yes. Think Indonesian nasi uduk or nasi kuning. Thai mango sticky rice, kaun yamamong. Sri Owen talks about how coconut milk totally transforms the flavor and richness.
Even broken rice finds a place in Vietnam.
Yeah, com tam. It started as humble street food using the broken grains from milling, but it's beloved now. Erica Peters says it shows a deep technical understanding of how different rice cooks. Some vendors even prefer deliberately broken grains for texture.
And fried rice, like nasi goreng.
Different from Chinese style. Indonesian nasi goreng often uses bamboo spice paste and sweet soy sauce, cap minis to unify the flavors, as Christina Cruyff describes. It's richer, often spicier.
The leaf-wrapped rice technique sounds amazing too.
It's ingenious. Chef Pim Tekinwanavidit calls it brilliant cooking technology. Banana leaves, pandan, lotus, bamboo. They package the rice and infuse it with subtle flavors. Nasi lemak, nasi bakar, ceremonial nasi tumpeng. Practical and delicious.
And community seems central to eating rice in Southeast Asia.
Very much so. Sharing dishes family style in Thailand, Indonesian nasi campur or padang feasts, Filipino kamayan feasts eaten by hand. Yanago Buena talks about how rice connects people. It's the foundation socially and nutritionally.
We should also touch on rice porridge kanji. Okay, your kanji. It seems universal.
Totally universal. Used to stretch food, easy to digest for the sick or elderly, pure comfort food. Harold McGee explains the long cooking breaks down starches, making it super digestible.
Chinese kanji has a particularly deep tradition.
Immensely developed. Dr. Miranda Brown talks about regional variations medicinal uses. Dr. Doshing Nelsi mentions specific types for health purposes. It's breakfast, comfort food, postpartum nourishment, used in rituals.
Ritual?
Yeah, Dr. Catherine Ulrich links it to purity, transformation. Used in Zen retreats, offered as temple prasad.
Okay, one last big cooking topic. Texture. It seems just as important as flavor.
Hugely important. That crispy bottom, Persian tadig, Spanish sokarat, Korean narungji it's celebrated, Rachel Lawton, Jose Andres, Michael Pettit all rave about it.
Yeah.
Then there's stickiness. Precise stickiness for sushi, as Harold McGee explains. Or the unique chewy stickiness of Southeast Asian glutinous rice, which David Thompson describes it needs soaking and steaming, used in sweets and savory dishes.
And the opposite, fluffy, separate grains.
Right, the tradition Colleen Taylor-Sen describes, often long-grain rice like basmati. Aging the rice helps, Gurpreet Baines notes, requires careful rinsing, soaking, precise water, often steaming.
Some dishes even play with multiple textures.
Yes, like Cantonese clay pot rice with its soft top and crispy bottom, or Korean dolsut bibimbap. It's intentional.
So texture is like another layer of cultural expression.
Exactly. Dr. Sidney Chung connects texture preferences to cultural values. Japanese harmony versus Persian individuality, perhaps? Rice, as Chef David Chang says, is just incredibly versatile. It speaks volumes.
Let's move into another fascinating transformation. Fermentation. Rice isn't just eaten, it's turned into drinks and more.
Right, this is like rice alchemy, creating things like sake, makwaili, Shaanxing wine, various spirits. The magic ingredients are microbial starters, koji in Japan, kwud in China, nuruk in Korea. They break down starch into sugar. Then yeast does the alcohol part.
And these aren't just alcoholic drinks.
No, they're deeply tied to identity community rituals. Dr. Christine Yano suggests rice alcohol probably started as ritual offerings. Think of ancient mouth-chewed sake. Kuchikamizake in Japan sounds gross, but shows that sacred link.
Mouth-chewed.
Yeah, saliva enzymes started the fermentation. Dr. Michael Jackson talks about the dual identity of rice spirit's everyday drink, but also sacred, like Hmong elders making Lao-hai rice wine for ancestor worship.
Saki's probably the most famous example of refined rice fermentation.
Definitely. John Gautner calls it Japan's rice philosophy in liquid form, precision, purity, harmony. The key is polishing the rice. Simaibwai, removing outer layers. The more you polish, generally the finer the sake.
And the taste.
It's subtle, often with umami, delicate aromas. Tasty notes get quite poetic. Brewer Rumiko Moriki talks about it being a relationship with nature, with intention.
How does Chinese rice wine Hongju compare?
It's different. Jacqueline Newman notes China often uses multiple grains and embraces complex microbial communities via the ku starter. It's less about purity, more about complex transformation. Dr. James Farrer mentions huge regional variations, all culturally important.
And Korean mokdioli.
That's the traditional everyday brew. Milky, often fizzy, bit tangy from lactic acid bacteria. More rustic than sakes, very popular.
What about distilled spirits from rice?
Those are ancient traditions too, especially in Southeast Asia and China. David Wondrich calls them some of the world's oldest distillation practices. Think Lao Lao, Ruodo, Chinese Baijiu, Sato.
Made simply.
Often, yeah. Dr. Patrick McGovern highlights the ingenuity of traditional stills. And interestingly, Emma Jansen notes these spirits are having a moment internationally now, people seeking authentic flavors.
Fermentation isn't just for drinks though, right? There are fermented rice foods.
Yes, like tapai in Southeast Asia. Dr. William Shurtleff calls it sophisticated traditional biotechnology. Usually glutinous rice fermented with a starter, ragi or lugpang, often wrapped in leaves to ferment anaerobically.
Like that Javanese grandmother knowing instinctively how to make it.
Exactly, passed down knowledge. Dr. Bambang Prawanto talks about its ritual uses, transformative energy, and preserving cultural heritage. A Malaysian quote says, "It is how we keep our identity."
These starters, koji, kru, ragi, seem crucial.
They are the engines. Koji, Aspergillus oryza, is Japan's refined national fungus. Quag in China is this wilder mix of molds, yeasts, bacteria. Dr. Liang Junmei calls it a microbial ecosystem. Nurik in Korea also relies on environmental microbes. And ragi in Southeast Asia uses complex local microbial communities, sometimes with added herbs. Dr. Merlin Chowdhury studies this complexity. They literally define the food cultures.
And they're seen as cultural heritage themselves.
Absolutely. Dr. Christy Spackman calls them living cultural artifacts, biosocial heritage. Koji is officially recognized in Japan. Similar moves for Nurok and Ku. Dr. Chiara Bortolato argues we need to expand our idea of cultural patrimony to include these microbes.
Are they under threat?
Yes. From industrialization, changing tastes, lost knowledge transmission, Dr. Rob Dunn warns about losing this microbial biodiversity. But there are efforts to preserve them, culture banks, community projects, artisanal markets. Dr. Leo Coleman stresses protecting that embodied knowledge.
What about gentler fermentations, like amazake?
Right, amazake in Japan. Dr. Takeo Koizumi calls it a nutritional food with cultural weight. Koji breaks down rice starch into sugars, making a sweet, low-no-alcohol drink or porridge. Very comforting, healthy.
And fermented rice water? Is that a thing?
Definitely. Sander Katz talks about simple lactic acid fermentation of rice soaking water globally. Kanji in South India, Pakala in Odisha. Colleen Taylor Sen mentions these. Natural microbes create lactic acid, giving probiotic benefits. Dr. Andrea Watson notes its accessibility in therapeutic uses.
Rice vinegar, too. That comes from fermentation.
Yes, another diverse category.
Yeah.
Japanese komezu, rich Chinese Qingqiang vinegar, Filipino sukangi loco. Fuchsia Dunlop highlights the Chinese emphasis on aging vinegar for complexity. Dr. Maria Marco mentions the microbial complexity involved. Different starters, different processes, different flavors.
This really blurs the line between food and medicine.
It absolutely does. Take red yeast rice, fermented with Monascus purpureus, used for centuries in Chinese medicine. Dr. David Kroll explains the discovery of monocolin K in it, basically a natural statin.
So it lowers cholesterol.
Yes. Clinical studies support it, though dosage and potential contaminants like citrinin are things to watch. It might have other benefits too. You still find it in traditional pharmacies.
And rice bran oil, that's seen as healthy now too.
Yeah, it's rich in gamma-oryzanol and vitamin E. Good antioxidant, cholesterol-lowering properties. It's a great example of valuing byproducts, like Japan's zero-waste efforts.
What about rice peptides?
Smaller protein fragments being researched for health benefits. Dr. Catherine Mulligan talks about that fluid boundary between food and medicine. Japanese labs are looking into this, often connecting back to traditional knowledge.
And specific rice varieties are considered medicinal.
Yes, black and purple rice for their anthocyanins. Dr. Hao Zihua notes their traditional blood-strengthening reputation. Some aromatic rices are thought to aid digestion, but Dr. Unnikrishnan Payapalamana stresses preparation knowledge is key. And we're losing variety, which is why conservation like India's Save Our Rice campaign is so vital.
Well, it's a complex picture.
It is. Dr. Nancy Chen talks about how this aligns with traditional views where food is medicine. Dr. Peter Jones's concept of functional foods fits here. And Gary Paul Nabhan reminds us how sophisticated traditional fermentation knowledge really is.
Okay, let's look ahead. The future of rice, drawing lessons from its past. Climate change seems like the elephant in the room.
It's huge. Amina Begum's story of unpredictable monsoons and rising seas is playing out for millions of farmers. Dr. Rainer Wassman calls rice a paradox, climate sensitive, but also a climate impactor through methane from paddies.
What are the main threats?
Changing rain patterns, floods, droughts, extreme heat, which Dr. Jagadish Krishnamurthy says hurts colon viability, reducing yield is a perfect storm.
Is anything being done?
Oh yes, lots of innovation. Developing climate-resilient varieties, flood-tolerant ones like Swarna Sub 1, which Dr. Julie Screeton worked on, drought-tolerant, salt-tolerant rice. Farming techniques are changing too.
Like what?
Alternate wetting and drying, AWD, saves water and cuts methane drastically. Dr. Bas Bowman's work is key here. The system of rice intensification, SRI, is another approach. Digital tech helps too. But Dr. C. Peter Timmer warns rice issues are linked to geopolitics, humanitarian crises. International collaboration like GRIS-SP is vital.
So there's hope, but uncertainty.
Exactly. Amina Begum mixing new seeds with old knowledge shows resilience. But Dr. Salama McDermott is right. The future under climate change is still very uncertain.
Let's talk golden rice. That was a huge story.
It was. Bioengineered to have beta-carotene, precursor to vitamin A, that 2000 Time magazine cover, pitched as a way to fight deficiency. But it's been super contentious.
Rather controversial.
Arguments for it focus on saving lives, preventing blindness. Arguments against race safety concerns call it a techno-fix, as Devlin Kriek puts it, ignoring root causes of malnutrition, corporate control. Dr. Sheila Jasanoff highlights the huge ethical and political questions about who decides on these technologies.
Has it been adopted anywhere?
It's gotten regulatory approval in some places, like the Philippines, as Dr. Russell Reinke notes. But its actual impact, its future, still very much debated. It forces big questions about tech and food.
Another issue you mentioned is forgotten grains, losing rice diversity.
Yes, a massive narrowing. We've lost countless local varieties, genetic resources, cultural heritage. Think Oryza glaberrima, African rice. Even in Japan, koshi hikari types dominate now. Dr. Susan McCouch warns we're losing potential solutions stored in those genes. Dr. Gary Paul Navan says seeds carry entire knowledge systems.
Was the Green Revolution partly responsible?
It played a role, favoring high-yield monocultures. But now there's renewed interest in traditional varieties, climate change resilience, consumer demand for flavor, indigenous rights. Chefs like Prin Polsuk and Jordi Navarra are champions, as Robin Eckhart writes.
Scientists are getting involved too.
Yes, people like Dr. Debal Deb. Rethinking diversity as true wealth. It's about reconnecting to place, history, that incredible genetic legacy.
In rice security, it's more than just having enough to eat.
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Jennifer Clapp calls rice a strategic commodity. It affects political stability, international relations, sovereignty. Think of the ASEAN +3 emergency rice reserve. Climate change makes it even more critical. And at the local level, informal trade, stretching supplies, that's security too. Rice is power, identity, survival.
Finally, let's bring it back to the personal, our own connection to rice.
Because we all have one, right? Diana Abu-Jabir talks about her individual rice stories. Michael W. Tweedy writes beautifully about that universal love for crispy rice at the bottom of the pot. Tadig Sokrat Narungji.
Yeah.
Think about your own memories. Kanji when you were sick, learning chopsticks, a special family dish. Dr. Melissa Fitzgerald says our sense of correct rice is culturally embodied.
And our stories are changing too.
Definitely. Mayuk Sen explores how migration and cultural mixing create new hybrid rice stories. For many, just cooking rice is a daily rhythm, grounding. It's universal, yet so intimate. Way more than just nutrition.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, what are the big takeaways?
Well, that rice isn't simple at all. Its ancient origins literally shaped civilizations. A single grain is incredibly complex. The cooking methods are pure artistry, reflecting culture. Fermentation is this amazing transformation.
Blurring food and medicine.
Exactly. And the future holds huge challenges, but also incredible innovation.
So we really encourage you, listening, think about your own relationship with rice. Maybe explore something new we talked about.
Yeah, try a different type of rice. Research a regional dish. Check out the work of IRI. Think about arsenic and how you prepare your rice. Maybe try sake, or amzak, or even tapai if you can find it.
And a final thought to leave you with. Rice has shaped our past, feeds our present. How will our relationship with this fundamental grain evolve as we face these huge global changes ahead?